Righto guys, look what's back. It's been a hot minute. Some people will recognise this. Big blue ute. Might recognise a bit better when it actually comes down. I'll show you what's in the engine bay. Boom! Blue ute, Killaboost kit. Big old G42.
No.
S480.
Yep.
There we go. It's always one of the two. 150% chance. Yeah.
It's a VS Racing one too.
VS Racing S480. Yeah. And this is actually Darcy's at Killaboost, his old kit that he actually used for R&D. It's got like a Warspeed Kelford grind. It's like a 233, 233. Can't remember what the LSA is, but either way, we were super impressed with this cam. This whole car went really well. So this is the one that went 825 at the wheels. Stock bottom end, 6 litre, E85. Yeah, over 800 horsepower at the wheels, which is awesome. Now, at the time, this car, it seems to just have this, it just seems to attract weird problems. So whatever was going on at the time, there was something up with was the ECU tuner locked?
It was tuner locked.
It was tuner locked. So the ECU was tuner locked, and we couldn't...
We knew who by. We called their shop and asked, and they were like, oh, he doesn't work here anymore.
Yeah.
The usual story.
The exact same story everyone gets when they're like, can you please unlock this ECU? That guy doesn't work here anymore. We don't have his... Anyway, either way, we had to pretty much eat the ECU out of it and put another one in it, which we had from a conversion that we have just sitting here. We had a spare ECU.
The week before Power Cruise.
Yeah, the week before Power Cruise. Again, Power Cruise, this is going on 2 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, we just whacked that ECU in it, and it was always meant to be temporary. It was a pretty quick cowboy tune because of Power Cruise, and that ECU, it worked enough, but we didn't reflash it to integrate it to get the VATs and everything working. So basically, the dash was always lit up like a Christmas tree because the car didn't know what frickin' ECU was in it, didn't think the ECU was there. And yeah, it was just a whole mess. And it was always meant to be temporary. Yeah. Fast forward 2 years later, here we are. It's finally back to get his ECU put back in. We've had it unlocked. We know a guy who knows a guy, and it's been sorted out. We've flashed it back. We actually have the software now. If we had the software we have now back then, this would have been fine. But anyway. Needless to say, we can reflash it, recode it to the VATs, and then we can put the tune on it, and basically can have the right ECU back in the car, and everything will be back integrated and working again. So, as well as that, we're doing a few other modifications to it this time. It's getting a full wideband set up, full wideband kit installed, so it's got onboard wideband. So it's getting flex fuel this time, so it won't just be E85, be a bit more streetable. So yeah, flex fuel, onboard wideband. Rex had to fix an issue with the fuel system, which is fixed now, and get the Venturis and everything in the pot working for the feed for the surge so that everything works and it doesn't run out of fuel when it gets to quarter tank. So Rex has fixed that, Rex and Bo. So we'll get all this sorted out, finally get it back on the dyno and see what it does. But as far as I'm aware, it has had a new clutch, didn't it? Was this clutch that let go?
No, it didn't let go.
Yeah, okay.
It was just the single plate. We're all pretty amazed that single plate was doing what it was doing, but since then he's just upgraded to a twin.
Yep. So yeah, there you go. Upgrade to twin plate clutch, which will hold hopefully that 800 horsepower. I don't know that we really want to push it much more than that. I think that was a pretty good number for a stock bottom 6 litre.
Yeah, at this point, no. He did talk about it. He's been saying, I've been talking to him on and off for the last 2 years, and he sort of said that he would like to turn it up, but when he dropped the car off, I was like, so what do you want to do? Because I am not taking any responsibility.
Yeah. Anything past this number, yeah, it's on you.
So at the moment, I think we're just going to leave it where it was. We'll just flex tune it, make sure that everything's cool as it was 2 years ago. And he's in a bit of a race with another mate of his that's got some other booster Commodore. So we'll wait and see. Once he gets beaten by old mate, it'll probably come back for some more page up.
We'll have to find out which shop's doing the other Commodore so we can Anyway, yeah, we were really impressed by this thing. This cam worked awesome. With this whole setup, this whole combo just worked really well.
Yeah, it did it pretty easy. It actually did that by accident. I was sort of trying to get the settings right on the boost controller because it was having some funny spikes and stuff, and all I did was put a couple of % into the duty cycle, and it leveled out. So I was like, oh well, we'll run it anyway, and it spat out like 796 after it did like 690 something, and I was like.
But yeah, I can't remember exactly what the cam specs were, but they were 230 something, and it just worked freaking awesome. Worked really well. So look at me, line G is all once again always freaking line. 232,
beware
238.
Beware of rough idle.
Oh no, but yeah, 232, 238 on 112.
Yeah, it looks like it. 111 and 113.
Yep.
Center lines. So
yeah, on a 112.
112.
So fairly tight, 230s. yeah, it just works really well. Lots of lift, 621, 621. So plenty of lift in there. And yeah, just this whole combo just freaking works awesome. So we were thoroughly impressed. Righto guys, so the boys are having heaps of fun with this thing. We were tasked with installing some gauges and a few other things in the car. Wideband, a few other bits and bobs. I think the wideband has an ethanol readout, does it, Rex? Am I correct in saying that?
Well, the gauge.
The gauge does.
Ethanol, fuel pressure, fuel temp, and wideband.
Ah, there you go. Ethanol, fuel pressure, fuel temp, and wideband. That's pretty extensive, but as always, installing gauges or anything that happens, like anything you have to wire through the firewall into the car inside that includes sensors and stuff, it always just takes so much longer than people think. Like, you know, it seems like it should take. It is just a timely, lengthy process. So anyway, the boys are having heaps of fun sorting that out today. But once we get all that into this car, we are ready to go again for the dyno, which will be nice. So also the flex fuel sensor has been installed. So this car previously was dedicated E85. We are going flex fuel now, just for some convenience. Like a watermelon.
Red on the inside, green on the outside, not like a watermelon.
So Rex started running this thing up. Yeah, the flex fuel sensor's working. Everything seems to be working pretty well. So it was time to get into our flex fuel tune. But it's got a pretty bad engine oil leak from somewhere. So we have to investigate that, I guess, because unless you just want to tune it and worry about it later.
I'll do a little bit more steady state to correct some stuff because the fueling seems to be a long way off.
Yep.
But a lot of things have changed. The whole fuel system's a bit different now, so.
Yep. Pretty much full retune.
Yeah, so I'll do a little bit of steady state, just figure out where it's at, and then probably just jack it up and I'll have a look. Because he did mention it, but when it got here, we had it on the hoist. Most of the oil under there was all red. It's a power steering pump.
Yeah, yep.
So wasn't that stressed about it, but there's a pool about that big that's definitely engine oil.
All right. Need to look at that. Righto guys, it turns out that the oil leak is just that the dipstick was not installed properly and it had been like siliconed up. Yeah, still leaking like crazy. So Rex got under and had a look, but unfortunately with the manifold on, there's not... Basically, it's a manifold off job to fix it properly. It's not obviously bad enough that it's going to be detrimental to us. It's just an annoyance. But yeah, it's not something we're going to start pulling manifolds off to fix. We'll let him sort that out. But Rex did what he could while he was under there. But yeah, going well on 98. Nearly at 700 on 98. Rex reckons we're out of gate spring there, which is about 11 pound, just under 11 pound. So, and the only gate springs that are in the car, it looks like, is the 14 pound spring. So probably don't want the 14 pound spring in there. A little bit too hectic. So we'll have a look and see what else we've got as far as trying to get this gate spring. We only want a little bit more.
Yeah, so but, that's where it left last time, 12.5.
Yeah, on the E. 12.5 pound on E last time. Maybe it's just, I don't know, the extra, what do you call it? Energy generated from the E85. Don't know, might be some difference. I don't know, we'll have a look into it. But at the moment, Rex reckons out of gate spring at around that, around that 11 PSI, which we'd probably want to get 2 or 3 more pound if we could.
Yeah, I'd like to see about 12 to 13.
Yeah, 12 to 13 would be nice, especially when we go to E. But anyway, we'll look into that and keep going. But yeah, so far so good. As far as everything else goes, looking good. Apart from that bit of an oil leak, but yeah, it is what it is. All right, so a bit of a change of plan because we've got another tune booked in for tomorrow anyway, and it's already getting on 4 o'clock now. After 4, we're going to chuck this on the hoist because it's going to make it a lot easier to get at that gate spring. There's Rex has sort of come to the conclusion that the fuel tank's pressurizing as well. So we'll try and sort out a vent for the fuel tank while it's on the hoist. And while it's on the hoist, we'll have another look at that dipstick and see what we can do about it. But it's just going to make it a lot easier to do all those changes if it's on the hoist. So we'll get the black one out, put this on the hoist, and get the other car in, I suppose, ready for tomorrow's tune, and then we'll continue on with this after that. Righto, guys, so I haven't sort of been filming. I've been busy doing Moto Dad things, but we ran out of gate spring again. So Rex changed the gate spring, sorted out a few things. Fixed the dipstick, doesn't leak oil anymore, so that's sick. So that's all sorted. But yeah, put the new gate springs in it, ran back up, ran out of gate spring again, and changed the gate springs once again after lunch. And we're pretty much done on the 98. So 98, we're at 767. Rex is saying boost controls being a real challenge. He's pretty happy enough with where it is on 98, because realistically this thing shouldn't really get that beat on a 98 anyway. And going to E85 with a bit more exhaust energy, it may change boost slightly anyway. So being that it's Friday afternoon, we're starting to run out of time.
I don't know what controlled setup, I wouldn't expect it to, but this thing seems to be very sensitive for whatever reason.
So it's a really weird, challenging boost control. But yeah, rather than chase Rex chasing his tail for the whole afternoon on the 98, we decided that's sort of good enough for the 98 for now. We're going to switch to E before we run out of the day. And we've been talking to the owner about different gate springs and everything else that's been going on. And he's basically saying that whatever the gate springs will get us to on 98, just send it on E. Send it all the way.
He said, can we get 14 PSI on
Yeah.
E? And I said, yeah, I just need your permission to do that.
Yeah.
Last time it was making 800 at 12 and a half. And he's like, oh, can we go 14? I said, I need your permission.
Yeah.
And he said he's got a spare LS3 if something happens to chuck in it. So he said, send it. So let's fucking send it.
Send it to the moon, pretty much. So this could turn into an interesting afternoon. But yeah.
Well, keep in mind, I'm not going to try and break it. I am going to try and keep it alive.
Yeah, exactly. We're not out to maliciously just destroy an engine. But if he wants to push it that hard, we'll try our best to get it there. She's going to be getting pretty spicy. What a cool setup. Anyway, I'll try and make sure that I film more of the E85 runs. I do have some more to do, obviously, before we go racing this weekend. Was it a tire?
Yeah.
So guys, we've got a tyre starting to delam on the dyno, which is obviously not ideal. We don't really want to risk running it any further, because obviously if it goes, it's probably going to do quite a bit of damage when you look at the road speed it's doing. You know, if it went full tilt, we don't want to, you know, sending a rod out when he's got a spare engine is one thing, but belt slapping a quarter to hell is probably not ideal. Also, not to mention the damage it could do to the dyno if we end up with a wheel on the roller sort of thing. Just things that aren't worth doing. So at the moment, our best course of action is to swap the fronts onto the back. Swap the fronts and the backs over and try again, I guess, and hopefully that holds up better. If not, we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But anyway, back up to 806 there, and that's it. Yeah, back at that sort of 12 pound on E. So still got a bit to go. Keen to see where this thing pulls up, but yeah, not too keen on trying to do 800 horsepower full tilt pulls on a wheel that looks like it's about to, or a tyre that looks like it's about to completely let go. Because I don't think that'd be good for the car. Well, it definitely wouldn't be good for the wheel, and I don't think it'd be very good for our dyno either. Righto guys, so swapping the front wheels to the back, bit of ginning around, getting it off the dyno and swapping the wheels all around and stuff. But Rex got a few more runs in and we managed to get sort of, I guess, where we're going to pull it up, really. So you can see on the low boost runs, it runs out a lot further. The limit is set to 7.
I had the roller tacho set pretty accurate with this thing. So yeah, lower boost, it was pretty on point.
And yeah, so lower boost would run all the way out to just past 7. So we are missing that much just in wheel slip because it is still touching limiter, which means it is still getting to the same RPM. But on the higher boost, obviously we're running out of dyno there, which means we're getting that much wheel slip. So, you know, you'd have to imagine on hubs where you're not getting any tire slip and then obviously eliminating the wheel and tire and roller all together, I'd imagine this probably would be 900. But the fact is we're at about 15 pound, which is sort of where we're at with it. 876 is what we've got on our dyno, and that's where we're happy to pull it up, still in one piece. It'll drive home, and again, this is stock bottom end 6 litre. As far as we're aware, it's not even rings gapped or anything, like it's just completely stock bottom with that can that we talked about earlier in the video. And then this Killaboost kit. So this did actually used to be the kit. I don't know if it's the car, but it's definitely the kit that Darcy actually used to develop these kits.
That's correct. It's the kit, but not the car.
Yeah, so it's the kit, but not the car. Yeah, so Darcy used that. This is how Darcy, the kit that Darcy R&D'd to pretty much bring Killaboost kits to life. And as you can see, even though it's the first one that he R&D'd, it frickin' works. It works so good. So I wonder if we should just try a run with that air filter off.
Oh, I guess we could.
It does still have the air filter on. I wonder if that'd get us to 900.
We can give it a go. Still
on the dyno.
strapped, we can do it.
One more run with the air filter off and see what it does. For a completely unopened, well, not unopened, but for a completely stock bottom 6 litre, not even gap rings, 870, and it's still going home. It's pretty damn impressive. So props to GM for building such a freaking wicked base to start with, and now a massive props to Darcy there at Killaboost Manifolds for these kits that just work. They just work. So whatever it is about this combo with this kit and then this cam, it just freaking works. It works so well. This just humming. So yeah,
This could be a problem.
ooh, we'll see. Oh, we got it.
Yes.
That's it. I'll just have a feel around, make sure there's nothing loose in there that's gonna. We'll take the headlight cover off as well. Open up our big hole. Yeah. I mean, let's see how this goes. Righto, boys and girls, big old Friday afternoon jam session. We ended up at 889 on that last run, but we put the air filter back on because the air filter made screw all difference. Did another run at 889, and the reason Rex wanted to do that run is because on that last run where we tried with no air filter, we actually had a bit of a fuel pressure drop off. So as you can see in the afternoon here, the sun starts to come through the back door, which obviously for most cars, 99% of them, starts to heat fuel tanks and starts to do a few funny things. Not to mention it's been running for quite a while now and things are really, really warm. And obviously it's one thing to make 880 horsepower on the dyno on a one pull, but obviously if you're gonna go, you know, pushing it and leaning on it at something like Power Cruise or something in the middle of summer, you need to be able to do that consistently for a whole cruise session. Otherwise, it's going to melt everything. So we do find it is a good indication, obviously, having the sun there and everything else, that sometimes if there are fuel pressure issues present, they do start to rear their ugly heads after a couple of runs at high boost. And
because of the gauge you got us to put in, it's actually fuel temp and composition because of the sensor.
yes,
It's
yep.
showing 130 Fahrenheit. I haven't changed it yet, but that is 54 degrees Celsius. So
Yep.
that's right at that point where fuel's starting to get, especially E85.
Yeah,
It's starting to get pretty unhappy.
flashy. So as much as it sucks, Rex was saying we're still only at about 50% injector duty with these XS by Expert 1650s, which we love so much. 54%. So we've got heaps of injector left. Rex was running this thing at 4 bar because we generally just, Commodores run at 4 bar, so we generally start at 4 bar. That's what we generally do. But given that it seems as though we are having issues with fuel heat and whatever else is going on here, as much as it sucks at the moment because it means we're going to have to go back to 98, double check everything, then double check everything again on the 85, and it's going to be a freaking time consuming pain in the ass. We are thinking about going back to 3 bar fuel pressure, considering we have the headroom with the injectors. Makes it a bit easier on the pumps and a bit easier on the fuel. We're going to end up with less fuel temp, and we've got the headroom in the injectors that we can make it up in the injectors at 3 bar. And overall, the combo should be a lot happier for that. Hopefully it stops this little bit of fuel pressure drop we are having. Rex was saying another thing we're fighting at the moment is that he reckons the battery's not very good. Alternator's charging well, but after a few runs you can sort of see it start to get lazy to start. A few other things that are going on.
Now, listen to it sort of cranking.
It has been lazier than that, but yeah, the injector outputs, the alternator output seems to be okay. So Rex is convinced it's this battery that's probably not very happy. So that's probably not helping either. But yeah, obviously if we're getting slight voltage drop because of the battery situation, plus trying to run everything at 4 bar, the way things are, we're getting some pretty high fuel temps, which is causing us some problems, and it is starting to go slightly lean after a few runs of the high boost. So go back to 3 bar. Don't have to lean on the pump so hard. It's easier on the fuel. The fuel doesn't get so hot. Make it up with the injectors and go from there. And hopefully we get the same result. No reason we shouldn't get the same result. But the fuel system should be a bit happier for it as far as not sort of becoming problematic after a couple of runs and starting to get a bit lean. So
See how hot the dyno is. You can see all the shimmering
yeah, in the shadow.
in the sun off the dyno retarder. So all of that's hot. That when I started it just then, it's showing 138 Fahrenheit now, so it's like mid 50s to high 50s. So it's hot, real hot.
So yeah, again, obviously having a full tank helps. There's a lot of things you can do to help, but ultimately we want to be able to, at nearly 900 wheel, we want it to be able to go to something like Power Cruise, sit on high boost for a whole cruise session and beat the shit out of it and not melt a heap of cast pistons would be great.
That's it.
So yeah, we'll go to that. Again, it sucks. It's extra time on the dyno. It's going to be probably another half a day on the dyno, which at the moment it's Friday afternoon, so now it's going to have to wait till Tuesday because it's a long weekend, but it is going to be happier for it, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll tune back in later and let you know how that goes. But yeah, nearly 900 wheel, stock bottom, 6 litre, not even gap rings, really good cam, really good turbo setup, everything's working awesome. This clutch is holding up, which is great. So yeah, everything's looking good except for obviously our fuel system was. So. Alright guys, so where we ended up with this, couldn't actually drop the fuel pressure to 3 bar, it didn't work. So just through the regulator, the pressure would not go low enough. It would not drop down below about 50 PSI. The reason being is just because of the way the fuel system's set up with the Venturi in the tank to ensure it draws fuel from the other side, which for VE tanks that sort of hump over the tail shaft and in the cradle and stuff is very important. But we're pretty sure because of that Venturi being in it, the way the lift pump's feeding the surge tank, we're pretty sure that the surge tank is pressurizing in that system, which for one is lowering the pressure differential across the pumps, which is allowing the pumps to almost free flow and flow a lot more fuel than they would otherwise if there was a bigger pressure differential. And secondly, just not having enough pressure differential across the regulator for that reason. it just will not drop low enough. So the way the fuel system is set up, it has to stay at 4 bar. Not much else we can do about it except for completely revamp the fuel system, which would be basically our recommendation to the owner, is to probably redo the fuel system. Our advice would just be to put an AI fuel system in it and be done with it. But again, it is what it is. We're dealing with what the car is at the moment. So it's got the flex fuel sensor which has the fuel pressure inbuilt, which means you can keep an eye on fuel temperature. God, I can't speak today. Has the flex fuel sensor, which has fuel temperature inbuilt. So he is able to keep an eye on fuel temperature. And on E85, we will tell him what sort of fuel temperature is going to start affecting the performance of the vehicle and start to risk a meltdown. As he's already stated, he has a spare LS3. He wasn't afraid to kill this thing. So we're just going to tell him what to look for as far as making sure you're aware of when it's potential for meltdown. That'll be up to him then, whether he wants to get his foot out of it or just keep it in until he melts it down. At least he will know, we will tell him, and that's how it's going to be while this fuel system's set up the way it is. So at the moment, because the fuel pressure was changed, but realized we couldn't do it, had to go back up to where it was, Rex has just been running it up just to make sure that it is exactly where it was before. Just doing some final checks, and as we experienced from the other day, at that sort of 900 horsepower, getting close to 900 horsepower, over 850, this thing's got just ARP head bolts on a stock bottom 6 litre, and it is starting to push coolant. As you can see, we are seeing some coolant in the overflow, starting to push coolant. So again, another thing we're going to let him know, if he's at Power Cruise, Power Play, whatever he takes it to, Lakeside, if he's giving it a hard time on high boost, he needs to be keeping an eye on the water temperature, the recovery time of the water temp after doing some pulls, and ultimately keeping a really close eye on the coolant level when he's pushing it like this. But MLS gaskets, it's pushing water, but as anyone that knows anything about LSs, it is just the inherent limitation of them in this, guys, is that they do just 4-bolt heads. There's so much you can do. I mean, you can start going studs, CA65 studs if you really wanted to really get that clamping force on them, but also you got to think about that much clamping force in an alloy block. How much is that deforming the bores and causing other inherent issues as well? So there's a lot to be taken into account and consideration when thinking about that. But ultimately, it is just starting to push coolant a little bit, and that just needs to be kept an eye on, as well as the fuel temp. But yeah, not quite 900 on the rollers. Definitely would be 900 on hubs. Really happy with the result. So we'll just do some final checks, and then out it goes back to the owner. Flex fuel tuned, ready and rearing to go. Yeehaw.